Hello everybody, welcome to the Football Daily Weekly. Good to see you. We're back once again and we've got a guest from Manchester. It's Adam from Blue Moon Rising TV.
It's nice to have me back after we get beat.
Absolutely.
Seems a recurring theme.
Hey, you know, you're the jinx. And Joe from Football Daily.
How's it going?
Good to have you on. Is this your first one,
This
Joe?
is my first one indeed, yeah.
My goodness, at least you've got a good shirt for it.
I know.
Excellent
start. So.
Damn right. First up, the 5 things we learned from the weekend. First up, we've got Chelsea. Chelsea, they turned over a new leaf, haven't they? Or have they?
Or
you boys are looking. What do you think? Or is this just a routine for Mourinho against Arsene Wenger, Joe?
Yeah, I think it is. I think Mourinho has got Wenger sussed down to a T. He knows exactly how to play against him. Costa knows exactly how to play against an Arsenal backline that's pretty weak. And I'm still not convinced about Chelsea. I'm not convinced they're as good as they were last year.
2 wins, Adam. They won a game in the Champions League, which they would thoroughly hope to win at home to a much lesser opposition, but a good win against Arsenal. I mean, wins against Arsenal is a good win.
A win's a win, isn't it? Especially against Arsenal, but I don't think we learned as much about Chelsea as we did about Arsenal.
Right.
I think what we've learned is that Arsenal are as weak in their strength in depth as we might have said last season. They haven't improved, I don't think. And once apart from in goal, I mean, Czech was a brilliant signing, but that was it. And when Gabriel went off, it just showed their lack of anything, really. They didn't have a centre-back on the bench. Without Coquelin, they've got no defensive midfielder. It just looks really weak, and a couple of injuries could really hurt Arsenal, and a couple of suspensions, which they've now got.
Yeah, do they still look soft, Joe?
They're still very soft.
Look at Diego Costa, that was red rag to a ball, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
Battering away there.
And I think there was a moment where Coquelin kind of limped in the first half, and everybody went, "Oh no!" And Arteta started warming up, and I think all the Arsenal fans at home probably went.
But that shows it though, doesn't it? I mean,
yeah,
if any other side, you know, if Chelsea, they get an injury to Matic or something, they think, well, okay, maybe Mikel or maybe Ramirez could do a job in there, something like that. But Arsenal, that is quite fragile. But they've been like this for so many years.
I just don't think they'll ever learn. At least they've showed that they've made more profit again.
Yeah.
So they've got even more in reserve. It must be so frustrating as an Arsenal fan. They've got all this money. They've got the pulling power because they're a club who, with 2-3 signings, could easily challenge for the title. But I just think that they had a point to prove against a Chelsea side who've struggled. And yes, Chelsea got the win in midweek and Arsenal lost, but I think that was a big chance for Arsenal. And I thought before the sending off, they looked all right. Yeah. I did think they looked all right. They were playing pretty well, but I think the players like Sanchez, Walcott, they need to stand up and be counted a little bit more than
sure. What about Chelsea, though? As I said, they've turned a corner, perhaps. Some people are saying, but you're not so convinced. Maybe.
I'm not. I still think that the back four is an issue for Chelsea. I think they're aging and they're not quite bedded in. Zuma and Terry getting swapped out a lot, and Ivanovic is not what he once was, and there's a lot of pressure on there, especially when Courtois at the back being out. I'm not sure they're. I think they're a bit
unstable. Adam, do you think Chelsea? I mean, last season they were the best team in the league, quite handsomely. Whereas this season, I mean, they're 11 points off City now, Manchester City.
Yeah, I think that they will get back to that kind of form. I don't think there's any worry if you're a Chelsea fan that they will challenge for the title. But they really need to step it up. I was really impressed by Zuma.
Yep.
I think he's solid. I think Terry might struggle to get back in. Impressed by Zuma and Costa, like you say. How naive was Gabriel?
Yeah.
Come on.
But the thing is, you know Costa's going to do that.
Yeah.
You know it.
Yeah.
Therefore, you can prepare.
Yeah.
And if you prepare against that, you can get a bit of discipline there, and it would wind Costa up. It would have an adverse effect, surely.
That was so frustrating. Arsenal did everything right against him until Gabriel decided to give him a kick.
Yeah.
And I just thought, you've got him wound up. He's already slapped someone in the face. He's scratched you. Walk away. And next time he does something, the referee has to pull him up. But they ruined it. They ruined that great start. And this might give Chelsea something now going forward. I don't know who they've got in their next couple of games, but Arsenal's always a tough game, even though they seem to beat them every single season. But that's one of the big games out of the way for Chelsea now. They've got one of the top 4 beaten. I just think it shows a lot more about Arsenal and their softness.
Absolutely. Well, Chelsea perhaps have turned a leaf. Fans of the Blues will certainly agree. Leave your comments in below and let us know what you think. Serie A is well underway and it's interesting so far this season. We've seen Juventus dominate in previous seasons, but chaps, it's on, isn't it, something in Serie A? Inter have started very well. Juve have only just registered their first win, Joe.
Inter Milan look good.
They do.
Finally, they're back. Mancini signed a few players like he always seems to do, but
and they're away.
They're away. They just seem to have settled better than Juventus. The new signings, I think, the likes of Jovetic and people like that, just seem to have.
It's good to see because when you see the clubs like Inter and Milan as well, who are coughing and sputtering their way, but they're getting a few results. You don't like to see it, do you? These are great clubs with great tradition, and they're struggling. But Juve only just got their first win, Adam. What do you think? I mean, they had a great win at Manchester City. I'm sorry to bring that up.
But
they've still got quality.
That's what's kicked them on, yeah. They showed against us that the quality is still there. It's just about them. I still don't think they looked fully fit against us. No. So maybe they're just trying to piece things together. Like you said, they've not settled brilliantly.
They've done a Chelsea, really, haven't they?
Yeah, a bit slow off the mark. But Pogba, he showed against us why he's one of the best players.
Well, that pass he picked out.
Oh, it was brilliant. And then he's got on the score sheet yesterday. Juve got a win. But the king returns to Inter Milan, Mancini, and they're just running riot.
They are.
He was backed though, wasn't he? He was backed with cash, and that's what a team like Inter needed, I think.
Yeah,
he was allowed to spend money.
Kondogbia and Melo look so solid in that central midfield partnership, and I think that's what he's missed for a long time is a strong base to build a team off. I think that's partly the reason that they look so good.
Do you think they lost a bit of, I don't know, identity maybe Inter or something like that? I mean, in Milan you could certainly argue that with their rivals, the Rossoneri, struggling a bit, and Inter as well. I mean, I think they finished 9th and 10th or something like that last season. They were both very poor. So when Mancini went back, they think, right, here's a guy who brought us success. We know what he's all about, and he's trying to instill that again in the players.
I think they were pulled over the line by Icardi in some respects last season as well. Into Milan. But to be fair to them, I think the fact they're not in Europe might help them this season. Yeah. I think that it's a recovery season for them. They're going to push strongly domestically to challenge Juventus with new signings. So I think the fact they won't be playing Wednesday, definitely won't be playing Thursday, I think that'll spur them on a little bit.
I think that's bang on.
What about Roma, Adam? Their man Totti's 300th career goal for the club.
Unbeaten, I believe, Roma. Totti's just Totti, isn't he? What's that? He's now scored in 22 seasons. Consecutive seasons, and what they call him, the 8th King of Rome. He's a god, isn't he?
Yes.
300 goals. He's now being put on, is it like bus passes? And now
I wouldn't be surprised if he was on banknotes or
just
something.
Unbelievable. But Dzeko's coming and taking his place, so it's making it hard for Totti to play. Dzeko's been...
Totti is in his late 30s, it's not too surprising.
Dzeko's been wonderful. Yep. Salah has been fantastic. And then Florenzi, off the back of that.
Goal against Barcelona.
Just stunner.
Sublime.
Do we think Roma could do something this season? Because in previous years, last season, they were up there with Juventus for a bit and they dropped off, and people are thinking that this is the side to mount a challenge.
I think it's a lot more of an open Serie A that you've seen for a few years. I think, like you mentioned, Dzeko. I think Dzeko is a brilliant signing. He brings other players into the game a lot more, and you'll start to see the likes of Salah work off him a lot better than he has at other clubs, at Chelsea, for instance, where he hasn't quite had that distribution and things like that.
I think it's about time, really, that Serie A was competitive. Because, like you say, Roma were up there, and they should have won the title. But they fell away, and then Juve do what they do best and ran away with it. But it's good because growing up, Serie A was the best league in the world by far.
People forget that as well.
Yeah.
Because I still got a romanticised view of Serie A.
And Inter, Milan, AC, Juve, even like your likes of Fiorentina. But it's just great.
Were a big side as
great to see them back up there, and I think that with a good season from Inter, because I really think that Inter could be favourites.
Yeah.
And then getting them back into the Champions League would be fantastic. To have Inter Milan back in.
Oh, that would be brilliant, yeah. And I think Juventus looked to struggle a bit of injury as well. Khedira out injured.
Well, we must remember they were very close to completing their treble last season, so they were very impressive. And it was good to see them in the Champions League final again.
They've lost all the players, haven't they?
Pirlo was always going to go.
The spine, isn't it? It's that spine.
The core
Vidal as well, I think, is a big loss.
They've got them there. But they've replaced quite well. It's just going to take them a bit longer to become the force that they were. I still think they'll be fine, but a three-way battle at the top does look on. And AC Milan, like you say, coughing and spluttering, but starting to win games.
With Carlos Bacca there.
Yeah, starting to win games that they would have lost last year. Bacca up front, Balotelli doing really well.
Yeah.
I think it's exciting.
Luis Adriano as well.
Yeah.
A little bit more invention up front. Could be an interesting one, gentlemen.
Hopefully.
Could be interesting. Get your comments in below and tell us who you fancy for the Serie A title this season. Manchester City are beatable, ladies and gentlemen. After conceding no goals and winning all their games, West Ham came to town, Adam. And Bilic's boys did a number on them, like we've seen them do at the Emirates and Anfield already this season.
West Ham were perfect.
They were, weren't they?
They were absolutely perfect, annoyingly. It was weird. That's 2 games this week where I've come away from the ground thinking, how did we lose that game?
Yeah, Juventus being the other.
And I think the answer is, we don't take our chances. We were so good in the first few games at making so many chances. We still didn't take a hell of a lot, but the last couple of games have been so wasteful. But West Ham, they came and attacked, which I've got a lot of time for, but they didn't just come and attack naively. They attacked, but they were very organised in defence. Winston Reid was unbelievable, and Adrian in net was like Gordon Banks. He honestly, it was like they had 10 men in net. We had something like 23 shots. Only a handful were on target, which is the most frustrating thing. But there's so much in the press about trying to dig out deficiencies when a City or a Chelsea get beat. We've just got to look at West Ham. They've done it to Arsenal, done it to Liverpool. You said before, it's just not a fluke, is it?
It's just not. No, I think Bilic as well is well documented that he starts like a house on fire and then kind of tails away. I think he's got him good. He's the type of man you could sense in the dressing room that would get you going for the big games, but then the slightly lower games, the Bournemouth at home, he struggles.
Indeed, I mean he's a very intense type of chap, and he is a very impassioned man and quite an engaging speaker as well. And you could imagine, as you say, that when he first turns up, the players are on edge and the hairs on the back of the neck are standing up. How long does that last for? Sometimes that can be emotionally draining, which can often be worse than being physically drained, if you know what I mean. So it will be interesting to see what happens with West Ham. But Manchester City, Adam, are you worried that they might sort of... Is this just a blip?
I think it was a blip, and it was just a team who came, they played the right way, and they won. And
these things can happen in the Premier League.
I think West Ham's biggest compliment I can pay is that De Bruyne scored just before half-time. And at 2-1, I thought, Bilic's going to have to change what he said in the dressing room. And I think he did. He said, don't sit back and hold the lead, but just protect it. And the way that they defended was just heroic. They throwing themselves in front of the ball. Yeah, they were turning the backs, but everything went right for them. And I think on another day, we could have scored 4 or 5. We missed company. Otamendi was really impressive. 97 pass completion rate, 97%, which is really good in his debut. He set up the goal for De Bruyne with the ball through to Aguero. Aguero as well is really off the boil. I think we might have brought him back a little bit too soon. He got a bit of a knock last week. We brought him in again. He just doesn't look either fit or capable of standing up. Every time he shoots,
which is a problem.
Every time he shoots, he's slipping. I don't know if that's his boots or whatever's going on. He'll be fine though. Silva to come back in again, will be fine. I'm not worried at all. De Bruyne was immense. That was his first start, and he was just incredible. The best player on the pitch by a mile, or definitely the best in a blue shirt. And if that's a sign of things to come, I'm happy. But Navas had his chance. Silva got injured in the warm-up.
You're not a fan of Navas, are you, Joe?
No, I think him and Antonio Valencia are candidates for the worst cross of the ball in world football. Honestly, they just can't pick him out.
It's really frustrating because Navas is such a threat. He's such a threat with his pace, but then when he gets in the final third, he's just a threat to himself.
That is the problem.
20 crosses, only 2 found a man. It's frustrating because I've backed him to the hilt. He got the most assists for City last season. Again, he had 97 pass completion rate, which I don't know how that's worked out because all of his crosses either went out for a throw-in or
maybe he wasn't crossing
West Ham.
Oh, maybe this season they're trying to get a bit of crossing in there, and he's going to take a little while to warm up. Joe, what do you think of Manchester City then? When you look at them, do you think they are definitely title favourites? They're going to win the league?
I think it's definitely their title to lose. For sure, it's their title to lose. I think they maybe. I know De Bruyne had a good game, but I think they maybe missed Silva a little bit on the weekend. He offers them something different.
I think you're right. Silva would have been able to unpick that lock. I think.
Yeah, I agree.
De Bruyne though, the way he played, he ran the furthest in all of our team, which is really impressive to say that he's meant to be an attacking midfielder. He's tall, he's not afraid to get his hands dirty, which I'm really impressed by. And I'm just as impressed by him defensively as I am going forward. So he could be a brilliant sign.
High praise indeed. Borussia Dortmund have started the season in blistering fashion in the Bundesliga. They're keeping up with Bayern at the top of the table, gentlemen. Joe, you've been very impressed with Borussia Dortmund so far this season. 5 wins out of 5 in the league this year, or this season, and 11 wins out of 11 if you.
They do. They look brilliant. They look like that Klopp 2012 side that was so high pressing and pace and attack. They just look superb.
Yeah, some of their individual players.
I think the biggest compliment you can pay them is that there's no Royce currently, and they still look the same team as they did 2 weeks ago. It would have been very easy for them just to sink into his kind of no Royce. What are we going to do? But they've replaced him. Hoffman, who came in for him, looks fantastic. Come through the academy, I presume.
And the young lad as well, who's slightly PLO-esque.
Yeah, PLO-esque. Viegel, who they bought in from 1860, looks fantastic in that hole. Like obviously some German fans will say he looked brilliant, but it looks fantastic.
They're really good at that, though, aren't they? Dortmund. They bring in these players that are pretty much unheard of, or from lesser clubs, and make them into seriously good players. Or maybe it's just the players in that team. Aubameyang, Mkhitaryan, Januzaj, Kagawa. I think Kagawa's been really good. But Januzaj, he has something to prove, doesn't he? And he is proving that he can play at the top level. Yeah. He's proving what he tried proving at United but didn't get the chance. I just think they look fantastic. They're scoring goals again, which they lacked last season massively. But Tuchel.
We'll go with Tuchel. Forgive us if that's
he's taken over, and like you said, he's like Klopp again.
He looks like Klopp, yeah. That kind of high press style and then counter attack really fast as well.
Why do you think then that he's come in and is doing something similar, and that's working again? Do you think with Klopp, he was there for a number of years? And you never know with personal stuff. Maybe Klopp was a little bit exhausted himself, and the players were, and his time wound down there. He was a great servant to the club, achieved a hell of a lot, and they just needed a little bit of a change to shake things up.
I think that was exactly it. I think the whole team looked tired. I read an interview of Hummels the other day where he talked about being overweight last season. Gundogan looked overweight last season. Royce wasn't quite there firing. Aubameyang wasn't scoring the goals, and the whole team just didn't have that buzz that they had a few years ago. And I think Tuchel's kind of reinvigorated it a little bit.
Yeah. Like you said, with Klopp, I think you mentioned it before about Bilic. He's such a passionate man that's got to get on top of him. There's a reason that he's not in a job at the moment. He must need a bit of a break.
Yeah, because he could walk into a number of positions.
He could walk into any club basically in the world. But I think he was just. It came to kind of a natural conclusion with Klopp, and quite a nice one as well. I'm quite glad for him because things were going sour. And I think the other good thing about Dortmund is they've kept hold of the players. Yeah. They've kept hold of your Royces, Hummels, where we know that all the major forces in Europe came in for these players. But we need to mention Bayern Munich. Borussia Dortmund get all the plaudits, playing this great football, and in the background, sat on the same amount of points, Bayern Munich just roll on.
About the day-to-day.
Doing their job. And Dortmund have got to be really careful, because they play each other, I think, in 2 weeks. I'm really looking forward to that, because I think that's a chance for Dortmund to say, right, we're going to take the lead in the Bundesliga this season.
But also, though, Joe, you're absolutely right. And also, though, if indeed that they lose out there, and if indeed they do finish second in the league or something, compared to where they were last season, that is an improvement. And they're playing against Bayern Munich, which is rather difficult.
100%. And I think if you look at them where they were this time last season and how far they've come, even if, like you say, they finished second, it's a massive, massive achievement for Tuchel. It could have been very easy for him to come in the shadow of Klopp and take him downwards again, but he took a season sabbatical, didn't he, after Mainz, and then he's come back and he looks on point again.
Yeah, I think finishing second will be a great season for
back
Dortmund.
into the Champions League.
Yeah. But it's how they finish second. Don't finish second behind Bayern Munich. 15 points behind, which will happen if you let them. They need to push them, and second's going to be great. They need to be back in the Champions League anyway, because otherwise they might lose the big players, and that would be a shame for everyone concerned, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to see Dortmund firing on all cylinders again. Anthony Martial is looking worth the money, gentlemen. He really is. I like many, thought it was a little bit overpriced. He was a little bit overpriced for all that amount of money, for all that potential, but he's beginning to fulfil it, Adam, isn't he? I mean, he's just taken like a duck to water.
Unfortunately, he does look very good.
Yeah.
What I'm really impressed by is just how he seems to have all this pressure on him, and it doesn't bother him one bit. His finishing is extraordinary.
So calm.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? For such a young guy, the first goal yesterday, his first goal was just tremendous. And the goal, obviously, last week on his debut. 3 goals in 2 games.
And they go on the Champions League.
Yeah, you couldn't dream of a better start if you're a United fan, I don't think.
Joe?
Yeah, I agree. I think he looks really, really something special United unearthed there. I think another thing that is nobody quite realised was how strong he is. When he's got his back to goal, he has the ability to hold people off. I think when he first came, everybody was expecting he's going to get knocked off the ball a bit easy. Januzaj but he doesn't look like that.
And that's an excellent point, because it's all very well having a guy to play off the shoulder of the last man and score, but these days in football, a forward player needs to be more. And if you can hold the ball up, you can be strong and all the rest of it. And what is he, 19? Yeah. And he's already doing that when he's come to the Premier League, which is a tricky one for people to make the transition, because it is a step up from the French League. The French League's still decent, but it is a step up. And that is very impressive, Adam.
Yeah, he's very mature, isn't he? And I think he's improved because of the players playing around him. Mata, Memphis, even Rooney to an extent, even though Rooney's still been quite poor. I'm really impressed by him. I'm just impressed by United's efficiency. A lot's been said. I still think they're very shaky defensively, and that might come back to bite them. But 6 shots on target in 2 games, 6 goals. There's not much more you can do, is there?
Yeah.
Which is really frustrating as a City fan.
Is that Van Gaal's philosophy?
Don't shoot on target unless you're going to score.
Don't waste them.
This is my philosophy.
Yeah, you're getting fed up with him using the word philosophy.
Well, if it works for him, but oh God, never mind. Move on.
Joe, what do you think about Martial going in there? And also, is that better for Rooney? Because Rooney's been played as the number 9 straight up front. Now, I know his best goal scoring season he was played in that position, but that was a very different team under Alex Ferguson a few years ago. Rooney clearly prefers to play a little bit deeper, more in a sort of a number 10, in a sort of support striker role, I suppose you would say.
Yeah, I think Rooney, he needs a player ahead of him to produce the runs. He's no longer got that ability to get in behind and physically outmuscle players off the ball. He's not that type of player anymore. He's more, I'm going to drop deeper, I'm going to distribute. You see him drop and play diagonal passes a lot, and he needs Martial to run past him to be able to create the space for him, I think.
The good thing for United is that the pressure's off Rooney now.
Yeah.
Because there's so much pressure on Rooney because there's no other striker at the club. So I think now that Martial's come in and performing, it means that Rooney can do his own job quietly. The problem United might have is if too much pressure then goes on to Martial. If he goes a few games without a goal, will it affect him? At 19 years old, you don't want the responsibility to carry a Manchester United towards the top 4, 3, 2, whatever.
There you say 1.
No.
I'm not doing that. Leave your comments below and tell us what you think of Manchester United and Martial. Well, thank you very much for watching, everybody. It's been a pleasure talking with you. Thank you very much, Joe. Thank you very much, Adam. We can find you on Blue Moon Rising TV.
Yes, you can. Link will be in the description below, I hope.
Absolutely. Some wonderful entertainment, no doubt. Yeah. Even if you're a Man City fan or if you're not.
Even if you're not, come and laugh at us when we lose.
Exactly. Take the opportunity right now, I'd say. Get your comments in below. Let us know what you thought of all of that, and we'll see you next time.